Welcome to Meta Slayers.
So what meta are we slaying today, Jay?
Sons of Behemoth. Do a little dance. Make a little giant.
These mofos hit the tabletop and joined the universe of Age of Sigmar a few months ago when we had zero competitive data to substantiate what they're capable of.
And they are good. I'm gonna jump right into list building. There's a couple of different ways to build these lists. A bunch of little giants and a big giant. A bunch of big giants and the minimum little giants. Do not try to kind of separate and divide and conquer. I tried that against Jake, and I got my ass handed to me. Nice.
In your defense, a very melee-centric list that you went up with against. But, yeah, not a good idea.
It was a little rough. I also didn't really know what I was doing yet. I didn't know where the secret power of the army lied.
No, that's BS. You did not get stomped on. By any measure.
In my opinion, I got stepped on.
Because you lost?
I don't like losing. The main list that I want to elaborate on is the 3 big giants and then the minimum 3 small giants. This gives you a little bit of utility and function with your big giants, but still has that core of a rock throwing unit, essentially. Secretly, the power of the army is actually in the small giants. They have more wounds, a higher damage output on average, and they're more tactically flexible because of the way that the wounds received versus bracketing versus loss of power. It's a bunch of math. I'm not going to get into it, but I did do it one day because I was bored.
They're super annoying, too. They count as 10?
10.
Ugh.
Or in some lists, 15. So you could have a unit of 45 counts as troops surrounding one objective.
Even if you're playing Horde at that extent, there's very few ways you can actually contest the objectives at that point.
Right.
In most cases, you're going to have to say, if a giant gets on my objective, I'm going to have to move on with my life.
Right. And that's not even getting into kicking the objectives around, throwing models, all kinds of crazy crap. That's all minutia that you will learn as you dig into this book. But let's just say the battlefield can change and will change depending on what giants you bring. The other list uses maximum amounts of small giants with just 1, maybe 2 large giants. What this allows them to do is, instead of just 1 unit throwing rocks, all of the giants surrounding your big boy can throw their rocks, which makes kind of a viable shooting list when you really break it down.
If it hits like a truck.
Well, all 3 giants get D3 shots.
Right.
So 3D3, and then if you have 3 units, you're looking at 9D3 shots, each doing D3 damage like a cannonball. It's good stuff.
So now where I find this extremely difficult to be tactically flexible in a competitive setting is you have to pick your list, and there's so many combinations. You can build your Sons of Behemoth to be resilient, to have extra wounds. You can pump them up to, what, 40 wounds?
Yes, you can.
Yeah. You can have a feel no pain.
Yeah.
You can ignore magic.
Yeah.
You're going to have to pick one
pick
avenue. Right.
The different command traits and general abilities, they're really cool. You can become a wizard, and it opens up endless spells.
Mm.
And, that kind of ties into our command phase that we'll be digging into, but there is a lot of tactical flexibility. But because you're limited at list creation, it does kind of make you decide where your army's going to go before you hit the tabletop.
It makes it a little bit more difficult because you can't just right before the match say, oh, you're playing this, I'm going to take this trait. I'm going to take this sub-allegiance. You can't do that.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Oh.
Breaking right into the command phase, there's a lot of different things that you can have access to. I find myself just kind of ignoring it because I didn't really have things that popped off during that. It was always during the shooting phase or the combat phase, maybe the charge phase, those types of things. But if you do take the glowy lantern, you can be a wizard, you can take endless spells, and that can kind of shore up some of your weaknesses. Like the Fusillade, the one that creates a line of sight blocking set of gems or crystals. That might be helpful if you feel that you're weak to shooting.
What about just the rerolls, like just the baseline, like to tell any of the, or to explain to any of the players that are just getting into giants for that matter? So, do you gain access to the standard rerolls in the rulebook's command abilities?
Most of the clans, yes. One of the clans you do not. You forego them, but you get a whole list of command abilities that you can use.
So, Jay, what do you do in your movement phase? Because movement is such an integral part of wargaming in general. Age of Sigmar is not exempt from that. Movement phase with an army that has this base size has to be crucial.
It is important. Being able to have the long shanks ability on your big boys lets you move over obstacles that are 4 inches or less, endless spells, prayers, things like that. That was in the newest FAQ, actually. It opened up, yeah, you can step over anything that's 4 inches or less, or models that are 10 or less wounds.
Right. As long as you end 3 inches away.
You got to follow the standard rules.
Right.
I don't think that applies to endless spells, but do so at your own risk, because most of them have that death bubble of you don't want to be near me.
Right. Unless you're a giant with 40 wounds. We played that one small points game where you actually body blocked with your Mega Gargant and denied me objective control across 2 objectives.
With a 130 mil base, that's a pretty damn good footprint to deny objectives or just area denial in general.
So we know they count as 20, the big boys, right?
Right.
But the little boys have always been my primary target every time I played against Gargants.
As they should.
Is there a reason behind this from a Giants perspective?
Well, they have an amazing damage output, but they actually have a larger footprint when you're staying in unit coherency to have that board control.
Because each one counts as 10.
Each one counts as 10.
Meaning 30.
You spread them out to where they are an inch apart. And next thing you know, their footprint to control objectives is this freaking long.
That's probably the most annoying part of it, where you spread the mini giants, the ones that I'm not a big fan of sculpt-wise. You spread them, and you can deny a lot of objective securing range.
It's true. Being able to count as that many, it just makes the movement phase so very important. Now, the shooting phase, this can either be very interesting or very lackluster. It is a boulder chucking in your face phase. Not scary. So, in that shooting phase, you want to keep these 3 giants together as one unit at list creation, because each giant army can only select 1 unit of giants, of small giants, to throw the rocks in a turn, unless you are a very specific clan. If you keep them clumped up in units of 3, it optimizes their shooting. It gives them more than D3 shots. It gives them the 3D3 shots.
Right.
So
and
yeah,
that's gross.
It can be. It can be. I've had a whiff, where I roll my 3D3 and I get 3 shots and they all miss because they hit on 4s. That happens. But then I charged them and deleted the unit anyway, so...
Oh yeah, because you ran and charged too.
That's right.
Now, where giants really terrify me is if you let them into your house, if you invited them in like a vampire, but not really a vampire because they're massive. Yeah, they really hurt when you get hit by them. They hit as hard as you would expect them to hit.
Yeah, they really do. And it's kind of funny because it goes back to one of our previous videos where it's going off of your gut. When you look at an army, if that's what it says is like, oh, this is a hard-hitting army because giants, but guess what? You're correct. These guys do hit obscenely hard.
But man, even at half bracket, you could, not going to be a good day for you.
At half brackets, they're taking about a 15-ish% hit in quality. That's not that bad considering they're at half their wounds. So from the giant perspective, or the giant player perspective, one thing that you want to do is don't really tangle with the characters too much. Save those bad boys for later. Don't worry about the big monsters. You can come back to them. Break the back of the army by breaking their troops. They have amazing crowd clearing ability. Use that to your advantage.
Interesting that you say that, because I might use this against you in one of our next battle reports.
Oh yeah, so little boys, as long as they're within 12 inches, and not wholly within, but within 12 inches of the big boy, they can run and charge in a turn. They can't run, shoot, and charge, but it's okay to forego the shooting when you get an extra d6 inches on top of their movement 8. Plus, now they get the 2d6 charge. Sometimes you can give them +1, etc., 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 etc. Battle shock, surprisingly important for the giants. If you lose a model from the small squad, you know, they're bravery 7 or 6. If you roll that 6, one of your guys is going to flee.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, that's 180 points that just said boo and walked away. But it is hard to make a giant topple, and then you still have to roll a 6, and then. But something awesome, the big giants, they terrify the opponents. So enemy units within 3 inches suffer a -1 to their bravery.
Yes.
So the battle shock phase, remember it's there. Because if you clear out 10 models with this guy, now they're at -10 to their bravery. Then another -1. The average bravery in the game is 7 to 8. So now you're looking at dice roll plus a bunch plus another 1. You might clear that entire unit or leave them with scraps in one combat phase.
Ouch. So, Jay, if you had to sum it up, how do you play and win with Sons of Behemoth?
Stay compact, stay objective-minded because nobody can stop them from taking objectives, and try to mitigate the losses of your small ones by body blocking with your big boys. Pretty straightforward.
Additionally, what do you think the 3 toughest matchups for a Sons of Behemoth player would be?
Oddly enough, I would have to say that they all fall under order, which is weird. You would think that there would be some
Cities of Sigmar would be a tough matchup.
Right.
For all the reasons, for the shooting reasons and for the magic reasons.
And
the,
they have
the wizard conclave thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And they have the peasants to just be chaff. Just throw them in. Oh no, I lost a 10-man squad of peasants. Woo. My next runner-up would have to be Lumineth, because they have the range from their bows. They have a 30-inch range.
Oh man, the mortal wound output?
Mortal wound output. And that's just hard to stop for anybody. But when you're on a small model count, that means you don't have a lot of target saturation. So their bows are going to hit home, and they're going to do a lot. They're going to put in a lot of work.
I would agree with that, considering how magic meta-heavy we're in right now. That's going to be a tough matchup.
Hell, the Lumineth even have a way to throw a bravery penalty. So if they drop the bravery penalty on you, now you're losing a giant on a 5-up.
Oh my god, and you lose 2 giants?
You lose your squad on a
Ugh.
6. Just from losing one giant.
That's gross.
So Lumineth, they're definitely a contender. And then lastly, would have to be Seraphon. You know, they ignore the rend of your light attacks, in most cases. They have spell casting to keep the distance. They have a couple of big boys that they can throw at you, being like the Connorsor and so on and so forth.
Flat 5 damage from the bites.
Right. I stay away from those. You know, I wait and I gauge my charges to make sure that I'm on priority before I even start to want to tangle with them.
Any of you Sons of Behemoth players out there, do you think there are other harder matchups?
Do you think I'm wrong with my opinions today? That's okay. Tell me about it so I can fight you.
Until next time, keep fighting the meta, keep fighting for what you think is right.
Like, comment, share, subscribe.
And visit our Facebook page. Jay's putting out some memes.
Hot, tasty memes. Favorite.